I'm going to try to be as professional as I can today and try to hit all these that are getting shot out of this pitching machine at us. Something I haven't covered the last few days, only focusing on Ebola, or mainly focusing on Ebola and the economy and things like that, is Ferguson and St. Louis have blown up. More cops have been shot, more protesters have been shot, one being killed 2 days ago. And now angry protesters target, quote, wealthy whites, vandalize homes, burn U.S. flags, assault reporters, call for officers' death. So this is just absolutely spiraling out of control. And the photos and videos of the flag burning and all the rest of it is just over the top. So we're going to get into some of that today, where our reporters obviously were on the ground in the middle of all that. And quite frankly, we saw a lot of bad behavior by the protesters and a lot of bad behavior by the police, but the feds posing as saviors when they gave the police the training. But now, the last few weeks, the police have been getting shot at and shot, and that's escalating things. So I would expect to see looters being killed. And more, the looters are giving the First Amendment a very, very bad name, to say the least. Again, that's just a side note. I haven't covered that. I've been remiss. I have a tendency, when I've got something so giant and so massive, to not talk about it. And I've tried to psychoanalyze what that is. And it's because I don't feel like I can properly break down how big something is until we've put it on paper as an article on Infowars.com or PrisonPlanet.com. Dr. Edward Group is one of the most successful supplement nutraceutical formulators in the country. And he helps us formulate our line for InfoWarsLife.com. And he said he could come in. He flew into Austin late last night. He was in Las Vegas for the big internal research medical, nutramedical trade show, the supply side event, the biggest one in the country, for supplement development. And there were just medical doctors, nutritionists, pharmacists, just crawling all over the place. But really, they had impromptu breakaway meetings. And he met with multiple senior-level, current and former Border Patrol agents and ICE agents, and then had dinner with them. He was there for days. And the information he just gave us is that there are people coming in, and it's actually in the news today, strangely enough, that they're getting people coming in from West Africa that are sick, but they won't say what they have. Obviously, folks, West Africa has hundreds of millions of people. Nigeria's got like 200-something million alone in it. They're all trying to basically get out of the country. Most countries have shut down their borders. U.S. General, of course, warned days ago it could cross the U.S. border. Southcom, they've got all of Central and South America on their hands up into southern North America, Mexico. Northcom's U.S. up into Canada, up into Alaska and then the North Pole. And they told him, they said, listen, no, there's people coming up vomiting. The Border Patrol thinks they have Ebola. And it's the first time the Border Patrol's ever worked with the CDC. The CDC doesn't even want it known that it's a full-on emergency and that they actually are responding. The first time they've ever seen them, hundreds of vans, black and white vans. And there are people in full hazmat suits just grabbing these people, throwing them in them, disappearing. And the Border Patrol's where they're going. They're supposed to put that down under federal law, and they just go, don't worry about it. And there's just vans everywhere. And so we're going to send reporters down to the hot zones. I want to send Biggs right now. He loves a challenge. So whoever wants to volunteer to a camera person to go with him, whether it's John Bound or Josh Owens or whoever wants to go, saddle up. And we got intel where to send you. Dr. Edward Group is joining us in studio in the next hour. He just returned from a giant insider, biggest in the country, trade convention on supplements in Las Vegas. He met with current and former senior members of the Border Patrol and ICE that were there trying to research Ebola. And they also talked about Zach Taylor. So he came in and said one of the names we have to look into is Zach Taylor. He's confirmed a lot of this. We pulled up a video minutes ago during the break of Zach Taylor, the former deputy head of the Border Patrol, the head of the Border Patrol Union, now the head of the former Border Patrol Union. He's been on the broadcast talking about the plan to collapse the country, collapse the border, asymmetrical warfare. He's confirming that the Border Patrol already knows that they believe they're finding cases of Ebola on the border, as Southcom came out 2 days ago and said they believe is going to happen. They're getting ahead of it because they know the Border Patrol is leaking the information to warn the American people, because overall it's a loyal federal agency and one of the few that's constitutional. If you read the Constitution, the government's supposed to issue the money and control the border and have a Navy. But his sources, and he's going to be in studio with us in the second hour, Paul Watson's doing an article right now, have witnessed people with Ebola-like symptoms, vomiting, blood coming out of their rear ends, blood coming out of their eyes, coming across from West Africa and the Middle East, and they are being scooped up by CDC, huge teams of vans. They've never before even seen the CDC down there. And the word is, oh, no, the CDC's responding. They just don't want to panic. That's why they're saying everything's fine. And that they are scooping people up left and right on the Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California border. That is scary. And groups back there, and here's some of the names. I don't use this name. You can use that name. And one of the people they said that we should talk to, Zach Taylor, he's got other sources. And I go, Zach Taylor? And I ran over here and I said, what's the name of the guy we have on who was the former head of the Border Patrol, deputy head of the Border Patrol, and then the head of the union? Oh, that's Zach Taylor. Yeah, Zach Taylor. So we need to try to get him on. And then Watson comes up and goes, have you seen this? This is a CDC release admitting they're going to have sealed plastic coffin liners that can hold up to 4 dead bodies for an Ebola outbreak. And remember, what they store outside the CDC in Atlanta was the millions of plastic coffins that they then scooped up and hid. I did a whole TV show with Jesse Ventura on that. And we even talked about Ebola, if I remember correctly, being one of the reasons. Unbelievable. This is all about to break at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. It's breaking here on the radio, but we're putting it together in text form, and it'll be out in the next hour, a basic report. Watson will then expand on it. They're all in their meeting right now. So this is all unfolding. Now, obviously, this is very, very serious news. And on the backdrop of this, we have the headline, illegal immigration jumps for third straight year under Obama, while Jay Johnson says Americans are susceptible to claims that we have an open, porous border. Well, we see the Border Patrol being ordered to give them vouchers and load the illegals with their families onto buses to go anywhere they want. We see the illegals getting free health care everywhere. I'm not even against the individuals fleeing hellish third world conditions, except they're used as political tools. But let's be honest, this is going on, and the fact that you keep denying it only discredits you. That's Jay Johnson in CNS News and the Washington Times. While they let the planes fly in, while airport workers in New York and other major cities, LaGuardia and other areas, are refusing to work and refusing to clean the planes, and now TSA people are starting to go off the job because they don't want to be touching people when they make other flight connections coming in from countries that are collapsing. 6 countries, 2 of them near collapse. Estimated 1.4 to 5 million to get Ebola. They can't go anywhere else. They can't go to neighboring African countries. Those have been sealed. The Liberian president seeks more power to fight virus, restrict movement in public gatherings, which is what you've got to do to stop something like this. And our government at one level lets them fly in, but then we talk to the Border Patrol, and we've confirmed what group is telling us. He just got in last night from Las Vegas, and the Border Patrol senior people are there hyperventilating, meeting with all these medical doctors and researchers and saying, you know, is there something that we can counter this? Is there something we can get? So we're going to codify all this information, get it into an article in the next hour that Paul Watson is working on that'll break at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. But I've got the red siren. The red siren is in here going today, a la DrudgeReport.com, because this whole situation is so incredibly volatile. And that's how government operates, is in a schizophrenic fashion. The Coast Guard's trying to board ships and check to see if people are coming in from West Africa. That's default position, what you're supposed to do. The Marines are training for Ebola outbreaks and containing areas. That's what you're supposed to do. Meanwhile, anything Obama directly controls with these agencies, they're ordering open borders, they're ordering open flights coming in when nobody else was doing that. But then separately, our Border Patrol sources are saying, no, they've actually got vans. I mean, we're talking dozens and dozens of vans per sector, just scurrying around grabbing people and then running off with them to containment centers. And the Border Patrol has to follow federal law about what's this person's name, where are they going, sign this form. And the CDC's like, no, sir, with guys in hazmat suits, and just throws them in trucks. And the Border Patrol's saying, where are they going? And by the way, they're going into the U.S. And so, dude just ran over here and said, because we're flying by the seat of our pants here as stuff breaks, he goes, where do I send Biggs? Where do I send the camera people? We've got to wait, and you got to go in there while Watson's debriefing group and also checking with our Border Patrol sources. We need to get a Don Salazar to talk to his ICE sources, Jakari Jackson, his ICE sources. It was our ICE and Border Patrol sources that said, no, come to this Border Patrol checkpoint in McAllen. We're ordered to do something. I'm not allowed to tell you, just come. And we get there, and the buses pull across from Mexico. The Border Patrol hands them vouchers with the city officials of McAllen, and then they load them on buses and ship them anywhere they want to go. We forced mainstream media to admit that. It's an organized collapse of the country, and then the Border Patrol does not like being ordered to commit crimes. And that's what senior members have said that are current, but then were gagged on Fox News. They said, we complete the smuggling, trafficking process. We complete the smuggling, trafficking process under orders. And they've cut us down 70% in our apprehensions, and the ones we do apprehend are just released. And when violent felons build up in county and city jails, we are ordered to not go pick them up, and cities are disgorging them. Let me explain what that means. It means if you are particularly a Latin American and you're running for murdering your wife, murdering your husband, robbing a bank, killing a police officer, whatever the case is, kidnapping, child molestation, drug dealing, whatever the cornucopia of things are, if you get to El Norte, baby, it's party time. The Mexican consulate, as part of their terrorist war against the Republic with the globalists, will give you 5, 6, 7 consul matriculas with any fake name you want. Any major bank will accept those. Car loans, house loans, it's all been greased. And then you can just run around raping, stealing, killing, DWIs, hit and runs. You're above the law. Well, now, if you've got a bunch of South American diseases that have already killed who they're going to kill, drug-resistant, drug-immune, bacteria, viruses, amoebas, liver flukes, wet leprosy, drug-resistant TB. Look at the numbers. It's all spreading lavishly. Central and South America are so beautiful, because I've been to Central America, and I've seen, obviously, videos of South America, that I would be down there all the time. The only safer places are maybe Chile and a few other areas. And that's if you're in a rural area. It's a beautiful, beautiful continent. And isthmus, or I guess peninsula you'd call it. But it is contiguous unless you talk about the Panama Canal. But it is a literal green hell. And now green hell is spilling into North America. And so we're just reporting, because we're saying the CDC's doing nothing, the CDC are letting it spread, because that's all the indicators we have. The CDC aren't going and cleaning up the apartment. They're telling sheriff's deputies to do it. How about, no thank you, that's not my job? Be better to leave it alone than send people that aren't prepared or trained into there. That's default common sense. Meanwhile, we've confirmed, oh no, the CDC is running around on the border, grabbing people that are sick, and they are disappearing. All part of this shadow government creepiness. Who knows what's going on? Duncan's family gives his medical records to AP, the man that died in Dallas a few days ago, Ebola, released from ER after registering 103-degree fever. Jesse Jackson said it was racism. No, they throw everybody out of the ER nowadays, folks. I couldn't get, until I threatened people with lawsuits and stuff, my finger reattached at the ER years ago. It's not because he was black, Jackson. They give basically everybody with a virus antibiotics. I always make that point. It's that our healthcare system is collapsing, Jackson. And Obamacare that you support with death panels, why don't you speak out against aborting black babies, punk? Well, Zach Taylor, the head of the Union for Retired Border Patrol Agents, 2 months ago said the CDC was showing up on the border, and we've got the video clip coming up, and just disappearing people that was never before seen, while telling everybody that diseases weren't coming across. But then at the same time, they're letting people that are sick through. That's been confirmed. We've confirmed from Border Patrol sources that it's currently going on with people with Ebola-like symptoms. I want to be clear. Border Patrol sources, high-level Border Patrol sources, CDC disappearing people with Ebola-like symptoms on border. And Watson's doing that article right now. I mean, Group had dinner with these people, with medical doctors. This is what is going on, what is being said, with the Border Patrol going to medical conferences and nutraceutical conferences, trying to find out ways to protect their agents. Because what would you do if there's no vaccine? You can't trust it. You would try to find compounds that could. Obviously, that's what anybody with half a brain would be doing for their agents, their families, and everybody else. So you got all that going on while Jay Johnson, Big Brother, Big Sis's replacement, says that it is, quote, we have the clip of this, that Americans are susceptible to claims that we have an open, porous border. Well, yeah, we're susceptible to seeing the sun come up in the morning, too, and susceptible to, like in football? I mean, what are you talking about? I mean, this is a fact. There are death panels in Obamacare. Fact. 2 + 2 does equal 4. Fact. Obama's a liar and came after our guns. Fact. Stop talking to us like we're idiots. It only discredits you morons more. Makes me so upset to see this going on. Immigration, illegal immigration jumps for third straight year under Obama, and that's according to Homeland Security and Border Patrol's own numbers. You can link through to those in the Washington Times article. But don't worry about the actual numbers. Just Jay Johnson, he says so. So that's just the way it is, ladies and gentlemen. Because he decides what reality is. Remember Karl Rove said, the government now controls reality. And we'll tell you that we're always at war with East Asia one day, never at war with East Asia the next day. And that brings me to this next point that I'm going back into Ebola. I want to play this clip coming up. CNN, all the other state-run media channels are running around saying, what's wrong with Turkey? They won't attack ISIS that's right over their border, attacking these innocent, wonderful Kurds. What is their problem? And so the ambassador from Turkey comes out on CNN and goes, when we are given authorization from the NATO and everyone to create a safe zone, a buffer zone in Syria, we will go in and we will take out ISIS and Assad and the regime. That's Turkey armed and trained ISIS more than anybody else. Turkey's given them, in the last 4 years, artillery support every couple months and fighter bomber support. So, I mean, this is the triumph of the lie, the triumph of fraud, the triumph of total deception and confusing geopolitical and geographic and cultural issues for the American people, the people of the West. that our governments funded Al-Qaeda under other names, Khorasan, ISIS, ISIL, IS to confuse us. They're in there attacking Assad and the government, killing Christians, blowing everything up. Turkey can't get the job done. So they have ISIS turn east and go into Iraq to resupply and get a bunch of weapons so they can cough and go, they got all these U.S. trucks and armored vehicles and weapons and stingers out of U.S. bases we lost. Yeah, wink, wink, not Benghazi. Then they infiltrate that back in on a big jihad, and we've got to go in and, what did I tell you? That they would take large zones of Syria and call them buffer zones. So Iraq gets part of Syria. Turkey gets part of Syria, sandwiching it, stealing the country, stealing the oil fields. And then their military simulant, that was their excuse to be there, scurries off to the next country. It gets on the next airlift, like the airlift of evil out of Afghanistan in 2001, being flown over the mountains into Pakistan. And then next they pop up in Europe or here with Stinger missiles, shooting planes down, and no one will say, why did you give them Stinger missiles? So I'm going to play that clip when we come back of the Turkish ambassador. I mean, it's so disgusting. The Turkish envoy, he's the ambassador to fight ISIS, the BS ambassador, getting it lined up where everyone begs them to invade Syria. And he says to bring down the regime. Well, we do want to go in to bring down the regime, and we will as soon as you all beg us. And then they'll be like, oh, thank you, Turkey, for fun. I mean, it's crazy. And they'll put Al-Qaeda in to chop every head off, and the American people will go on to the next ball game. I mean, it's just unbelievable. In the past decade, we have witnessed unparalleled scientific discoveries in the area of health. But no one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. DNA Force is one of the most expensive formulas to produce. Some of the ingredients in DNA Force are $12,000 a kilogram. We are using the coveted, patented, only American source of PQQ, CoQ10, and more. You want the best that's out there at the lowest price anywhere? Well, we're bringing you a total win-win. The ultimate value, cutting-edge, trailblazing game changer that also supports the InfoWar. We have produced a limited run of DNA Force, and it will take up to 12 weeks to produce more once we sell out. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. DNA Force from InfoWars Life.